You would think that remaking films that won major Oscar awards way back in the day would be off limits for remakes. Apparently not. Hello once again, watchers of good movies. My name is Nick Pell and this is once again coming from my apartment. Now today we are going to be talking about the film Ben-Hur. This is obviously the 2016 version, not the 1960s version, I think. That came back out way in the day. This is 2016 version. It stars Jack Houston as It stars Jack Houston as Judah Ben-Hur, and he is this prince, Jewish prince in Jerusalem, who's just living his life. He's pretty much a cool, chill dude, and just kind of does whatever he wants. Not really a dick as a wealthy person, but isn't really inspired to rebel against the Romans or help out the poor in any significant way. We also have Toby Kebbell as his adopted brother, whose name escapes me. He is, as I said, adopted, and so he doesn't really feel like he has a place amongst his family. And so once one thing goes a little bit too far, he decides to take off, join the Roman army, gain himself some notoriety, some fame, a title, and then he returns. Now they use the first hour of this film roughly to introduce a lot of these characters and set up this whole film, which I think could be a bad thing for some people, but it made the film actually a lot more interesting for me, just because we got to learn a lot more about who these characters are. It didn't feel as rushed in regards to kind of a setup, and I actually quite enjoyed that fact. We got to see how close-knit these two brothers were, with Jack Houston and Toby Kebbell having really good chemistry with each other. I really enjoyed seeing that on screen. I wish we would have seen more of it before Toby Kebbell had gone off to war. Because if you have seen a trailer for this movie, or if you have, I'm presuming, seen the original, you know that it ends up with Toby Kebbell's character betraying Jack Houston's family, and Judah gets sentenced to slavery and is off on a slave ship for 5 years. And so you know that that is coming. And so just the very slow build up to that event, which I thought personally was going to happen in the first 15-20 minutes of the movie. I thought it was going to be very fast paced. And yeah, it takes its time, sets up really well, and then it delivers it in a very good fashion, which makes us actually care about the characters, which they have been setting up for the last hour. And then they cut to him on the slave ship, and it's a very, very fast sequence. This is the part that was sped up, if anything, because he's maybe on the ship for maybe 10 minutes of the film at the most. And while it was cool to see him on that, I would have maybe liked to see that be a bit more included in the movie, just see his experiences on the ship, see any relationships that he might have formed. So maybe cut out a little bit of the introduction and a little bit of the second half, and just give this more room to breathe. Because it does inevitably end, Jack Houston, he gets out of the slave ship, runs into Morgan Freeman's character, and slowly gets back to Jerusalem to confront his brother and take back his title of sorts. And this is the main part of the film where it starts to introduce kind of a religious element to it, is in this general middle section, because it does have Jesus in the movie. And I know what you're probably thinking if you're me, Jesus, they're gonna make this into a religious thing. But it has those elements to it, but like Risen, which is another film that came out earlier this year, which I actually really enjoyed, it does it in a way that honors the time period. It doesn't make it all mystical and magical and everything. It makes it fit into the time period. Jesus is considered a zealot, and he and his followers are considered just rebels against the Romans who are trying to take down the Roman Empire. And that's just how they're looked upon. And so I thought that fit really well. There's kind of like a godly element sometimes in this, especially this one scene in about halfway through the film in which Jesus and Judah's characters interact. But I thought that the film used those elements really, really well and didn't really over-exaggerate the whole religious themes until the very end of the film, where it got a little bit religious heavy for me. If you've watched my other reviews where I've reviewed movies that have religious elements to them, you know that I myself am not a very religious person, so I'm more critical of those aspects. But I thought this film did it really nicely. I don't remember where I saw this, but it was either like on a YouTube video or in before the film thing or something, but I saw a behind the scenes look of this movie, and it showed us the chariot race. It showed the fact that this was a very practical event, which they actually used live horses and actually used the actors and stunt doubles, presumably, actually racing around the track, doing all these stunts and all these really nifty, cool things. And so little of that was CGI, and that's actually really impressive watching it on screen. Maybe it wasn't the most solidly edited per se, but it's still really, really cool to watch, and knowing that a lot of that was actually practically happening and not just CGI that was thrown in. I also ended up seeing this film in 3D. I didn't really think that was necessary in 3D. It didn't really have anything major which really stood out to me in 3D, so just bear that in mind if you're going to try and decide whether or not to see it in that format. But guys, overall, I thought Ben-Hur was fine. I found myself enjoying it for the most part, but I don't think it's anything that I'm going to rush back out into the theaters to see, and probably not something I'm going to buy on Blu-ray day one. So those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments down below. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you hate it more than I did? Let me know. Like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I appreciate it immensely. And as always, my people, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on watching.